Hello and welcome back to another activity-based costing video. In this video we're going to demonstrate the second stage allocation. So in order to do second stage allocation we need a number of things. First we need the activity rates, and in order to get the activity rates we got to start with way back to first stage allocation, determining what are our activity cost pools and calculating what are the total cost of each of those activity cost pools. We've already done that. We did the second step, which says, okay, once you figured out what the total cost of the activity cost pools are, figure out take your estimated activity and calculate your activity rates. So we have that here. We have our activity cost pools and we have our activity rates. To do second stage allocation, we need to take our activity that we actually incur in the job. So we have two examples here. We have K100 and we have M67. We have the activity for each of these activity cost pools. So to produce K100, we have 80 supporting direct labor hours. Machine processing hours for K100, we have 100 hours. Machine setups, we have 1. Production orders, we have 1. Shipments, guess what? We got 1. And product sustaining activities, this is not to be confused with organizational sustaining activities. Okay? This is something totally different. Remember, organizational sustaining activities are not included in activity-based costing. Okay? So in this example, we have, again, 2 products. We have the activity for each product. We just need to figure out what is the second stage allocation, meaning what is the ABC cost, or what is the cost using activity-based costing. Okay? So in order to do this, all we need to do is multiply the activity rate by the actual activity incurred in making the product. So let's look at K100. Notice we have 80 we have 80 supporting direct labor hours. The rate, or the activity rate for that activity, is $6 per hour. We get $4.80. We do the same thing with machine processing, right? There's overheads. There's overhead departments there's overhead departments that we have. These departments, or their costs, are allocated to machine processing, right? Meaning machine processing, this activity consumes specific overhead costs. We already figured that out to be $4 per hour. Well, to make K100, we're using 100 machine hours at $4 per hour. We get $400. Same thing for machine setup, right? The activity of machine setup consumes some overhead costs, right? We already figured out what the total overhead costs are. It's not in this problem, but we already figured it out. We already broke it down to the activity rate of $50 per setup. Well, there's only one setup, okay? And the same thing for production orders, shipment orders, and product sustaining activities, right? We have 1 machine setup. We have 1 order. We have 1 shipment. We have 1 product sustaining activity. So, don't want to do that. Sorry about that. Okay, so since we have 1, I'm just going to drag this down, and basically I'm transporting these costs over here. So we want to figure out what is the total activity-based cost to To make K100, it's $1,874. We're going to do the same thing with M67, right? M67 incurs some supporting direct labor, right? This activity of supporting direct labor consumes overhead costs at a rate of $6 per direct labor hour. Well, to make M67, we use 500 direct labor hours. So I'm going to multiply my 500 direct labor hours times $6 per direct labor hour. I get $3,000. I'm going to do the same thing for machine processing, right? This activity of machine processing consumes some overhead costs. The rate is $4 per machine hour. We know that to make M67, we are using 1,500 machine hours. So I'm going to multiply my 1,500 machine hours times the activity rate of $4. I get $6,000. I do the same thing for machine setup, right? M67 requires 4 machine setups. Well, this activity of setting up the machine consumes overhead costs at a rate of $50 per setup. If we have 4 setups at $50 per setup, the cost is $200. Same thing with production orders, right? The activity of production orders consumes overhead resources, right? The rate is $90 per order. Well, if M67 has 4 orders, we're going to multiply the 4 orders times the activity rate per order of $90. We get $360, okay? And we do that all the way down. I'm just going to click and drag it down to multiply the activity times the activity rate. And the total cost I get for M67 under activity-based costing is $10,540. So that is second stage allocation.